Welcome back to Royals Review Podcast. You join us on the back of Stockport thumping the Royals 3-1 at home in League One. A home defeat, which we've kind of got used to not having. But now we've had two in 2 weeks with the defeat to Burnley in the FA Cup. Jim, I know you watched the game. Talk us through quickly what you thought and what your key standouts or key negativity is.
Yeah, obviously disappointing to lose a second home game in a row. I mean, just to touch on Burnley quickly, I thought we played all right there. You know, going in at full time at 1-1, I thought that was a fine result, really. Any other season, I guess now that the format's all changed, it's never going to happen again, is it? But that's a replay, isn't it? So yeah, I don't think, even though we lost, I don't think we were particularly terrible against Burnley. That's not the case for Stockport, though. I thought we were poor all round. It was a very similar sort of performance to earlier this season when we were at their place. And it's unfortunate, really, because they're arguably a weaker side now that Louis Barry's gone. I think really the only player to have a half decent game, even though he did lose a bunch of aerial duels. But I mean, he was our only output. That's Sam Smith. 1 shot on target, 1 goal. I thought it was a fantastic finish. Up to 10 for the season for him. And that should have given us a lifeline, really, and got us back into the game. But the sort of fragilities in defence stopped that from happening. And then, we ended up just, throwing the game away. Well, not throwing it again away. We never had it, but never getting back into the game. It's annoying, like we said before, it was 6th v 7th. It's a big game, really. These are the sorts of games that I kind of picture as what, a playoff, like first leg, second leg, would be before you get to the playoff final. So if we're not showing up in these sorts of fixtures, then I think there definitely needs a bit of work doing on the training ground.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, I echo your thoughts, really, and just like hugely disappointed, not only because of the scale of the game, as you say, being a playoff clash, but you look at Stockport's results recently, and they've been pretty poor.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think they're winless this side of Christmas. Until they play us, and obviously they smashed us at home. But as you say, that was largely down to Louis Barry, who was probably the best player in the league at the time. He's now gone, but yeah, they still managed to thump us. And then, if we're honest, they had our number from kickoff. Really, they were the better side from start to finish. So yeah, it is quite disappointing to lose like that. But yeah, there we go. We have to move on. I'll pick up on something you did say though, about Sam Smith. Only 1 shot on target. Reading only had 1 shot on target in the whole game, which goes to show how sort of ineffective they were going forward. I'm not sure what you think are the reasons for that, but I'll let you talk about Reading going forward against Stockport for a little bit.
Yeah, I mean, I think it will probably lead on to what I imagine is going to be the sort of biggest talking point of this episode. We don't seem to have a plan B when things aren't going the way that we want it to be, and I think there's numerous sorts of factors that feed into the way that we want to play, and I guess the main point for me is everything going through wing, or us just having playing like hoofball, getting it up to as high up the pitch as we can, and just hoping that Smith can take it down and bring some others into play. I think that kind of showed the fact that he had so many aerial duels to sort of contend. But also it's a carbon copy of what happened when we played them last time. I remember loads of people sort of raging about it on Twitter as well. We were just hoofing it up to get, I think it was Ken Campbell, he was filling in because it was when Kelvin had just got injured. Obviously he doesn't have anywhere near the sort of like physical presence as Kelvin did. And he just wasn't winning anything at all. And we were just getting battered. And then we scored, and we scored a fantastic goal that was being played all along the ground. And I just think, why don't we play more? Why don't we play football on the floor rather than just hoofing it? Why does Wing have to dictate everything? Do we have a plan B? So yeah, I mean, I think that's something that Hunt needs to sort of address, because like after I'm watching that, I'm thinking they've not learned anything from the last game. They just did the exact same thing and they came away with a similar result and a really bad performance. So yeah, it's a shame, but I mean, what do you think about it? What do you think about the whole sort of like creative issue that we seem to have?
Yeah, I think it's a bit of a concern, particularly as you say, when Wing is kind of marked out of the game. Where do we get the creativity from? Which, to be honest, actually, firstly, I'm really surprised other teams haven't done this before, given how good everyone knows Wing is and how
Yeah,
fundamental he is to this side. I can't believe that other teams have not tried to suffocate him before, because
yeah, I know.
you'd imagine, well, you see it's very effective. The stat that I just wanted to say on the aerial duels is Sam Smith had 13 attacking aerial duels, which is like way more than anyone else, like way more. He did win 4 of them, which looks pretty poor comparatively, but you also have to remember he is, not the tallest guy. And then there was another stat that I wanted to back up your point, because I completely agree. I don't know why we don't play the ball on the floor. We've got Chem Campbell's back. He's relatively tricky, quite good at taking players on. Garcia, okay, not so much. And I'll talk about Garcia in a bit, but Kelvin coming back into play now. He looked bright with the ball at his feet when he came on. But Reading had loads of success, 70% dribble success. And down the right-hand side, with Rashisha, Nibs and Campbell, they were beating their man almost every time. So it just begs the question why we're not doing that as often as possible.
Yeah,
And yet instead we're still lumping it forward. I don't know if it's down to the fact that, and I haven't verified this stat, so don't quote me, but Tyler Binden had, I think, way more touches than he usually does. Probably largely because Wing was being man marked tightly. And that might explain why we're chucking it over the top all the time, because he's not quite as accurate with his passes. But yeah, I'd like to see Reading play a little bit more with the ball at the feet. And actually, me saying this reminds me of a chat we had at the start of the season where, even against Birmingham, when Reading are quick on the ball, pass, they can cut open defences. And as we've referred to throughout the season, Birmingham are probably the best team in this league, and we did that well against them. So I'm not sure why now we're not doing that as much, and we are getting a bit lumpy, because no one wants to see that, really. You want to see fun, fast flowing football, which Reading do have the players to do. So I just
yeah, exactly. I think
just echo everything you said.
Yeah. I mean, I think we've definitely touched on this before as well, when sort of talking about what sort of player do you need to be to sort of perform well in this side, and what attributes, what skill set should you have if you want to be a player that is going to be a top performer in this side. And I think we said, like, your short passing game, if that's on point, then there's definitely a place for you in this side. And we've seen some of the sort of fast flowing football and like fantastic link up play. I mean, obviously I will mention, the fact that Ben Elliott is out is huge, because he is arguably like the best player we have with that sort of skill set and the ability to just sort of get through 2 or 3 people in midfield. So yeah, it just, like you said, it sort of begs the question, why aren't we making the most of what this team is the best at doing, especially when we've seen it work so well previously. So yeah, it just sort of, watching that Stockport game, it's just it's a tough watch, isn't it? When you just think, like, what the hell are they doing? Like, we don't play like this normally, and we're getting battered. Why don't we just do what we know how to do, and then sort of go from there?
Yeah, I completely agree, mate. Maybe we will see it, because I know Savage talked a lot about how Noel Hunt is changing the way they play, but that was meant to be away from home. We were obviously at home at the weekend, but we'll see on Saturday against Leyton Orient, who are again another playoff 6-pointer really. If anything does change, I'd imagine the setup will be a bit different because it's an away game, but it'll be interesting to see. Anyway, one player that I wanted to pick on's not the right word because I don't want to do that at all, but to talk about is Garcia. What have you made since he's been pushed a little bit further forward, playing in the sort of left wing role? Because obviously we've been very impressed with him at left back, not only given his age, but just he's been great at left back. But yeah, more advanced now. Have you got any thoughts on
that? Yeah, I mean, I think his strengths are sort of going forward. Look, he's 16 or 17. Is he 17 now? I mean, look,
yeah, he's 17.
I mean, it doesn't really matter, does it? Like what age he is? He's a young guy. He's not going to be crazy at defending. Like his skill, he's definitely better at starting attacks going forward. So you would assume that him being a winger is probably his sort of preferred position now. It's hard though because, and I know you've probably got a bunch of stats that can sort of direct us in what, you know, whether he's playing well in that position or not. But you look at sort of like how much he's creating and like and stuff, and it's not, I guess it's not huge. It's no better than, you know, what he was doing defensively in comparison. So yeah, it's hard. I don't want to say he's like playing bad at all or anything because I don't think he is. I just you know, I think the games that he's been playing on the wing haven't been particularly easy. We've not, you know, against Charlton, I think, was that the first one that he played on as a winger?
Yeah, I think so.
He played a lot further forward. I thought he was all right. You know, he just didn't have. There was just no sort of end product, but there wasn't any end product from anyone. So I guess in that sense, it's kind of hard to tell. But I don't think it's an issue. Like I still like the fact that he's someone that you don't know what his best position is yet. I think that's what you know, it's a good thing to see that you've got players that are playing, and they can, you know, they can play in numerous positions. They can perform in different areas on the pitch, and you don't even know if that's actually where their best position is yet. It's just, you know, another raw talent that's come from the academy. I think I'd really like to see him play as like a wing back. I know we're probably going to come on to like the questions, and I know there's one about what do you think we could do to sort of improve our performance against Stockport. Was it?
Yeah.
We can touch on that in a sec. But yeah, I'd love to see Garcia as like a in that wing back role. I guess sort of best of both worlds for him in terms of being able to get forwards, but not having that pressure or as much pressure as you would if you were just a sort of traditional fullback as he'd been playing previously. But we can come on to that in a sec.
Yeah, for sure. I don't have that much to add, to be honest. Just as everyone knows, I work for WhoScored.com, so I use their stats quite frequently. And I'm biased, but their rating is the best in the game, and they've split it out by position for Garcia. Well, they do for every player, but he's rated 6 on the dot for his performances at left wing, of which there have been 2, and 6.5 for his performances at left back. So it's not a huge increase, but there's a significant increase there in overall rating. But yeah, like his strengths are that he likes to dribble and he likes to tackle. So he's likely to be pretty good at left back. But as you say, yeah, left wing back seems to be the best of both worlds. So it'd be good to get him in there. I wanted to quickly talk about back to the playoffs again, really, because we've got, as I said, Leyton Orient coming up on the weekend. If we lose that, they'll be level on points with us, and we might. Well, we'll be looking like we're going to start to drop down the league. What's your take on it all? Do you think we will start to drop off now? Do you think off? But I don't even know if it's a bad run of form, but if the form will continue to struggle or if we'll get better.
Yeah, I don't think it is a bad run of form. Like we just had a pretty solid festive period. Obviously, the FA Cup defeat, but that's not league, so we won't count that. And then this is the sort of first defeat it is the first defeat that we've had in a while. But when you're not winning games and you're drawing games, and then you lose a game, or if on the flip side you win a game, you tend to sort of jump quite significantly up or down the table. And I think that's just where we are at the moment. We were speaking about this earlier today. We're sort of in that we've turned the losses to wins in some cases. Sorry, we've turned the losses to draws in some cases, which is why we've got such a good sort of position in the table just outside the playoffs now. But we're not turning the draws into wins, so we're not sort of solidifying our spot at the top end of the table. And because we're not doing that, we're going to see us sort of slip. But you know what? If we beat Orient, we're right back in the playoffs. So yeah, they're all going to be tough games, but I do think we have a tendency of just thinking that because we've lost one game, it's all going to go to shit. Like Stockport aren't a bad side, and I think sometimes it's just so easy to just get so wound up on, especially if you're just active on social media as well, to just get so wound up and like everything gets so like blown out of proportion. Don't get me wrong, we weren't good at all against Stockport, but I still think that this team has the quality to sort of end where they are abouts now. You know, just I know I've said sort of in the playoffs up until now. I still think that we are good enough to get a playoff place, as long as we don't sort of lose anyone. Well, I imagine we're going to lose at least one person this window, but if we can sort of keep the majority of the squad together, then I do think we can get a playoff place. But yeah, I can't see us slipping sort of right down to the bottom of the table.
Yeah, no, me neither. Quite a few key games coming up. Obviously, Leyton Orient at the weekend, then away to Burton, Bolton, and Huddersfield, Rotherham, and Birmingham all coming up in Feb. So
Feb's looking difficult.
I think it's looking difficult, but like that conversation will be more relevant at the end of Feb, because I think by then we'll have a real steer on whether we can finish in the playoffs or not, really. So, yeah, I mean, also, they're very tough games, but lots to look forward to, particularly if we can get some wins in there. And I also wanted to look back at January last year. We only won 2 games last January, and we've already won 1 here. And then we've got Leyton Orient and Burton still to play. Like, you have to think we'll beat Burton, or you have to hope we beat Burton away. So I don't think there's any reason to panic just yet. I know Reading fans are very quick to panic, and to be fair, it's hard to blame them with everything that we've been through. But yeah, I think everything's okay. We only 4 teams in the league have got more wins than Reading this season. So yeah, no need to panic just yet. I thought you'd gone then for a second, Jim. I thought you'd got bored of me talking. But anyway, one question before we head off. As you rightly alluded to from James on social, is we've lost twice to Stockport now. With hindsight, what would you have done differently? Would you switch up the formation and would you switch up the tactics? Oh, you have gone. Let me try and get you back in. What's going on?
Laptop has melted, so it's a phone job from now on.
You're back in. Well, all you missed is that I just asked the question: what would you do differently with formation and tactics if we were to play Stockport again, with everything you know from the 2 matches we've played against them this season?
Yeah, I mean, I think we sort of touched on this already, but just playing to our strengths, playing along the floor, just sort of stringing our passes together, and I feel like that's how we've got back into games and how we've played our best football. So I think that's the first sort of there you go. Is that better?
Much better.
Yeah, that's what I would do. And I think I really would like to see us play 3 at the back or 5 at the back, whatever you want to call it, with Abrafa and Garcia as the wing backs. I feel like they're both really good at sort of getting forward. Then we've still got Kelvin or Kem, or even Nibs if you want to sort of play him out wide, because I know you're going to have to sort of sacrifice one of the centre mids. I just think there'll be such a nice sort of balance in the squad. So I'll definitely try that. Like I said, you'd have to sort of get rid of one of the midfielders. But I don't know about you. I sometimes watch the games and I think our midfield just gets cut through so easily. It almost feels like we're playing with one less midfielder sometimes. So I wouldn't be too worried about having to sort of sacrifice one. I still think there'd be sort of a nice balance to everything. And then of course you got three defenders behind you anyway, to sort of make up for it. I think they're that's what I would try. Again, I'm not Noel Hunt or a football manager, so it probably wouldn't have too much of an impact. But yeah, you're right. Hindsight is a great thing, and I don't know. I feel like that would definitely be the answer to some of the problems that we've had. But yeah, what about you?
Yeah, to be honest, I'm actually quite similar. I'd like to see us revert less to lumping the ball forward, use our wingers a little bit more. This is all very easily said, but I'd love Kelvin to feature and play off the left from the start. If I'm claiming all of the luxuries possible to me, I think that will massively help. So I think that will massively help Reading for the rest of the season, actually. But if we're talking specifically about Stockport, I think he would have made a big difference had he been on from the start. I do also just think, right, Stockport were better than us the whole time, but 2 goals from set pieces. No team in League One have conceded more goals from set pieces than Reading this season. I would like to see us just work on that. We've got Dean, we've got Bindon, who are, in my eyes, good in the air.
Yeah.
Why are we losing? Why are we losing in the box? Why are we losing these aerial duels in the box so often and conceding goals from set pieces? It's really disappointing when you're a team that are pushing towards the top and going for playoffs to concede what I'd call pretty sloppy goals. I can't remember if it was the first or the second against Stockport, but there was someone completely unmarked at the back stick and he just has all the time in the world to guide it where he wants. Really disappointing to see. So yeah, I would focus on a bit of set piece defending. I'm not going to lie. I imagine they're doing that anyway now after the weekend. But tighten up the set pieces, play out a bit more rather than lumping it forward, and just hope that the next time we play Stockport, Kelvin will be fit from the start, and it might make it a little bit easier for Reading. But much the same as you, really.
Yeah, so right. Just everything that they didn't do correctly, as long as they do that correctly, and then play the players that didn't get the full game time, then it should be all right.
Yeah, and if we could sign like Haaland, De Bruyne, and the Arsenal back line, new keeper and everything, perfect. We'll beat them. Right, that's it. Leighton Orient at the weekend. If you have a spare ticket and you want to help us out,
2 spare tickets.
Yeah, 2 spare tickets, because I was a lazy boy and forgot to buy them, and now they are sold out. That's actually the closest game possible to me for Reading, so I would really appreciate it. But more than anything, thanks very much for watching. Please like, follow, and subscribe. Do all the lovely things to make this the best Reading podcast out there. We really appreciate it. Cheers, Jim. I'll speak to you after the Leighton Orient game. Come on, you are.